I've had the Steam Deck now for the last 72 hours, and while not being completely perfect, what I have played on it has blown me away. Was this worth the year of waiting for? Heck yeah, it was. The case that the Steam Deck includes is pretty premium, and it kind of feels like a seatbelt. Odd comparison, but that's what it feels like. Let's flip it around and take a look at the inside. I know we've been hearing from a lot of people that the quality of this case is top-notch, but now actually seeing it firsthand, it does look really nice, and it's a really solid case. The inside of the case is really soft, and you have a little pull tab here to lift up the Steam Deck. First impressions of the joysticks and the ergonomics feel really good. The joystick caps feel a little smaller than your typical controller, but they do feel really nice, and I do like these joysticks. The sides of the joysticks have a subtle texture to it, which I really think is kind of a cool little touch, adds a little grip. Overall, the joysticks are really impressive, and I'm glad they put both of them up on top. The matte finish on the top of the joysticks also helps avoid smudges. It does feel similar to the Steam Deck, but the Steam Deck has a slightly different texture to it. The triggers remind me of the 8BitDo Pro 2 controller. The triggers are excellent, and the bumpers aren't too bad either. They have definitely a subtle click to them on the bumpers here, but they're not too loud, and I don't mind them. The entire ergonomics of this device, with these triggers and bumpers and then the joysticks where they're positioned, feels more like you're holding a full-size controller than playing on a handheld. The buttons definitely feel nice to use. They do have a slight looseness to them at the top, but not in a bad way. I think they've done an excellent job here with the buttons. The buttons are really glossy, and they do attract fingerprints and smudges though. The buttons on the Steam Deck do remind me a lot of the 8BitDo Pro 2 controller again, just with how they feel pushing them down and the subtle looseness at the top. I was worried about where they put the buttons up here, but I do like it and it's comfortable to use. The plastic on the handheld itself kind of reminds me of automotive plastic. It has that kind of same feel and texture. It's definitely thick plastic, but it does have that hollow sound to it. It gives it kind of a cheap feeling. I'm quite happy with the build quality on the unit. The quality of the glass is excellent, but I did put a matte screen protector on it just to protect it a little bit more, as I'm really worried about trying to get another one of these down the road if something happens. I think you'll be really happy with the build quality on the Steam Deck. The D-pad itself is really good, and it does remind me again of the 8BitDo Pro 2. This is one of the better D-pads that I've seen in a gaming handheld. I do also really like these start and select buttons up the top here. I was kind of worried when I saw this on the back here. It almost looks like there was a sticker on it or something, like someone else had used it. Either that or it's just the way that they put the plastics on the back. When gaming or downloading anything, the top right corner on the back here does get hot. Not uncomfortable, but it's definitely hot. You also get 4 buttons here on the back. I haven't mapped them to anything yet, but they are nice to have, and I'm sure I'll find a use for them. You can really see the ergonomics here on the back, just how comfortable it is to use. Honestly, this is the most comfortable handheld I've ever used. When I was initially setting up the deck, I did have a couple problems with the download speeds. I started downloading a game and then set it up here at my desk on my little dock. You can see that the downloading speed dropped to 0 and it would cut intermittently in and out. The download speed did eventually jump back up to about 130 kilobytes a second, but as I don't have a decade to download each game, I needed to find a solution for this. I tried every possible fix, but I could not get it working. I had no idea what was going on and how to fix it. I actually spent about 7 hours trying to figure this problem out, and it had the strangest solution. Because it was still downloading and making some progress, I decided to see if anything could be done in the meantime, so I tried to pause the download, but as you can see, nothing happened. At this point, I was pretty sure that the deck had actually frozen and I needed to do something else with it because it wasn't going anywhere. To try seeing if it was the deck or the download itself, I went to try to uninstall it just to see if it would uninstall. With all the controls unresponsive and this animation constantly loading for quite a while, I figured the deck was pretty much frozen at this point and something else needed to be done. I know this does take a while depending on your memory card, but I've tried this multiple times and I've left it for quite a while and it would be frozen still, even coming back 5-10 minutes later. Kind of the last ditch effort that I had to try to fix this after all the software solutions that I tried was swapping over the memory card. As you can see, the Steam Deck has already unfrozen itself, so I was pretty sure this was the cause. It also failed to format in the Steam Deck twice. The only other memory card I had on me was a Patriot 128, and luckily I've never had one of these fail, so I trust to get the job done. Let's put that back in the Steam Deck and try formatting it to see if it works. Next, I just headed over to the system settings, went down to format SD card, and let the Steam Deck go to work. It's a shame to see this other card die on me because it was a 256. I'm definitely losing a lot of storage here and I'm going to have to buy a new one if this is the problem. And trying a game here just to see if it fixed the issue, you can see yes, it does fix the issue. So it was just the micro SD card stopping downloads. These are download speeds on the 2.4 GHz band, but if I swap over to 5G, I do get much better. I hover around the 50 to 60 megabytes download. On my desktop using Wi-Fi 6, I am hovering at about the 80 to 100 megabyte downloads, so it's not as good on this Wi-Fi AC or Wi-Fi 5, but it does do the job and it's a decent solution. Not entirely sure if that micro SD card was formatted incorrectly, but I did try formatting it on my PC and it wouldn't format. As I've never had a micro SD cause me problems before, I had no idea that could have been the problem, but I'm glad to see it downloading and it's nice to have a working Steam Deck finally. I love how easy the deck makes it to swap between your internal storage and your micro SD card. Out of all the games that I played on the Steam Deck, Nioh 2 actually surprises me the most. Seeing this game run mobile just felt totally bizarre. For a big title like Nioh, a big AAA title, you definitely want to have your refresh rate set to 40. Battery life on a big AAA title like Nioh isn't the greatest. You're usually getting about maybe 2.5–3 hours depending on your brightness and your game settings. It's not too bad, but definitely not like an ARM device. Overall, I'm pretty happy with about 2.5–3 hours usage out of this, as it's kind of meant for like a single sitting and you're going to usually charge it before playing it again anyways. I'm more than happy though, getting about 3 hours battery life at the higher end for a AAA title. I think that's really impressive for a handheld of this caliber. I just finished Elden Ring on my desktop, so the opportunity to play something like that on a mobile device just feels really cool, and I'm really happy that I can finally have that experience. I haven't used my desktop once for games since getting the Steam Deck. Between using 40 and 60 Hz, there's an 8.3 millisecond difference between the two, but because the frame time remains steady on both, it gives you a smooth experience on either. Dropping to 40 Hz frees up to about 40% of your GPU, which can offer up a huge performance increase in certain games, especially AAA titles. Windows handhelds as well can benefit greatly from running at 40 Hz over 60. Because of the amount of battery you save running at 40 Hz over 60, plus the amount of performance you can gain, it usually makes more sense running at 40 instead of 60. Older titles or easier to run titles like Sonic Mania are actually better to run at full 60 Hz because it does feel kind of like it's in slow motion if you're not running at the full 60. I know a lot of people are still waiting for their Steam Decks, and it kind of sucks that you have to wait this long to get something like this. From my experience so far, I can easily say that the Steam Deck was worth the wait, and you're going to have a lot of fun when it shows up. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below.